Hello, lovers of all things luchadores y luchadoras. My name is Christian. I'm here with Duality of Wrestling. As always, thank you so much for checking out the channel and our podcast. Greatly appreciate you being present here. But I'm not going to waste any time today because we just finished a jam-packed 2.5 hour show for Dynamite, AEW's Grand Slam Mexico. And man, this was such a great show. We had a great crowd, a great venue in Arena Mexico. I don't want to waste any time. There's so much to cover. I'm going to get right into it. So, as we start off the show, opened with a super hot kickoff match, which was the AEW World Tag Team Champions, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, teaming with the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, to take on the Death Rider contingent of Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, Pac, and Danny Garcia. The faces were super over in this match. Adam Copeland came out wearing a lucha mask with kind of a devilish theme to it. Massive pop for him. The crowd was also singing Metalingus at a level usually reserved for around Toronto, so that was impressive. And when Christian Cage entered, we got loud Christian chants. So Christian Cage, very over south of the border. Didn't have that necessarily on my bingo card, but you love to see it. Arena Mexico, by the way, looks massively impressive in the way it's being shot. There's the crowd environment, looks great. I love the stage setup. As one of my friends and fans of the podcast sent me via text during the show, the steps leading down from the main stage area to the ramp are a little bit anxiety inducing, and I agree, but they also can lend themselves to some pretty cool spots as we saw throughout this show. Again, crowd was on fire for this opener. Moxley was super over as a heel. The crowd booed everything he did. We got Copeland joining in during a spot in this match with the Young Bucks super kick party, which everybody seemed to enjoy. We also saw Marina Shafir get involved in this matchup and ended up getting to the outside and slapping Christian Cage, who he ended up going down and hitting with a low blow of his own, which was just great because Excalibur followed that up with, this is a direct quote from Excalibur, "I believe that's called some kind of punt. Not sure of the nomenclature, though." Man, that's just fantastic. If you were ever going to try to use a vehicle to get the phrase cunt punt onto regular cable television and streaming, this is basically as close as you're going to get. Well played, Excalibur. Totally did it without breaking. Really, really funny stuff. At the end of the match, saw some accidental contact between Matt Jackson and Adam Copeland, allow the Death Riders to get the roll-up finish, and that teased a little bit of tension between the All-In combatants for those tag team championships. Christian obviously left earlier because he has the shorter fuse and didn't want to stick around to have the post-match discussion with the Bucks following the loss. That led us into a video package hyping up the Kenny versus Will Ospreay events that are leading us into their World Heavyweight Championship match at All In that everybody is super excited for, and I promise you will be more excited for that match after the main event tonight. But still, very good package highlighting some of the storyline developments between these two men. That takes us to the triple threat match for the number one spot at All In's Casino Gauntlet match, which will determine the post All In number one contender for Kenny or Will's AEW World Heavyweight Championship. This match featured Tommaso Ciampa taking on Commander versus Andrade El Idolo, the AEW National Champion. I very strongly predicted Andrade would win this matchup, and I was not disappointed. Andrade hit the DM on Commander to take the win in this match. Ciampa started us out coming out draped in the American flag to substantial boos. And one of the things I noticed was a comment on Reddit I saw pretty soon after Ciampa's initial debut with the company. They were talking about his My Shadow Knows My Story entrance and theme music, which the comment was it gave big divorced dad vibes. I really can't argue with that whatsoever. But then Ciampa, as a heel coming out draped in the American flag, now gives big MAGA divorced dad vibes, which also very funny, but also a little bit sad considering I like Ciampa. And yeah, we'll just leave that there. But obviously Ciampa got significant boos from the Mexico City crowd for that move. Commander did get a decent pop for his entrance, but Andrade got a significantly bigger one and even got some Idolo chants from the Arena Mexico crowd. We ended up getting the same plant from Andrade's entrance to do his crowd selfie spot, which feels a little low rent on AEW's part. If they were already out there for the entrance, I think we could afford a different plant to use in the crowd and not one who's already walked out with him, and thus theoretically wouldn't really need a selfie with Andrade. No, come on, we can do better than that. We had an amazing anti-air knee strike by Ciampa on Commander, who was doing sort of a springboard leap into the ring, and Ciampa basically broke him in half with a knee strike. Looked really, really good. And Ciampa at one point decides to, following Andrade removing his pants, Ciampa decides to elbow drop, stomp, Project Ciampa, and try to pin the aforementioned non-sentient, not alive pants. Aubrey Edwards even tried to make the count on the pants until Commander came in to make the save. This just follows up with what happened at Redemption in the Painmaker match, where Ciampa tried to do the same thing with the Yopi mascot doll. So if this is going to be a new wrinkle in Ciampa's divorced dad character, where he tries to assault and pin inanimate objects loosely associated with the wrestler he's beefing with, I'm kind of all for it. I mean, I didn't really love Ric Flair back in the day doing the elbow drop and everything onto his jackets that we used to see, but I'm a little bit more into Ciampa doing this, so let's kind of hope this continues. We also got a crazy twisting Poison Rana by Commander into a rope walk shooting star press, but Andrade plucked him off of Ciampa, was able to hit the DM, and get the win, and that means that Andrade El Idolo will be your number one entrant into the All-In Casino Gauntlet match. Everybody kind of expected this, so no real surprise here, but we do get a surprise in the post-match. Andrade comes out and says he's winning the Gauntlet match at All-In and claiming the AEW World Championship for all of them, for the Latinos, and for Mexico as a whole. But that summons from the ether Maxwell Jacob Friedman. That's right, MJF's music hits. He comes out from behind with a belt shot. Yes, he is holding the big Burberry belt version of the AEW World Championship that he lays Andrade out with. MJF then reclaims his Dynamite Diamond ring that Andrade has been walking around with for several weeks now, and lays Andrade out and busts him open with a fist shot while wearing that ring. Andrade gets a couple more hands thrown at him on the floor, and MJF then heaves him from the ramp onto the floor before grabbing a microphone himself. MJF declares himself the rightful world champion and holds up the Triple B, as in saying this is the real world championship, almost kind of what AEW did with CM Punk following Punk's initial issues back with Brawl In. So, I guess that's where we're going with this, but I'm not anti, and I'll tell you why. I am always down for a split championship feud, especially when a wrestler like MJF has his own custom belt. It worked for Punk at the time because Punk never lost the World Heavyweight Championship. He had to be stripped of it due to injury. Now, in this instance, MJF still, he did rightfully lose. He claims he didn't because he blames Will Ospreay, as we saw in this promo, but he still has the big Burberry belt that he can easily masquerade with as a world champion. I kind of love this. I kind of love the idea that he could potentially defend it, in the months leading up to whenever he gets another championship shot. So I think this is great. I like where they're going with this. As I mentioned, MJF said it was Will Ospreay's fault that he lost to Kenny Omega and that robbed him of his Wembley main event. MJF declares next week in Vegas for Dynamite he will be in the qualifier for the number 2 spot in the Casino Gauntlet, which is basically the number 1 spot. It's just the two men who start this out, and as a result they'll have an equal chance to win the match before all the other participants come in, which basically again makes number 1 and number 2 pretty interchangeable. MJF says he has the only belt that should be recognized is his, and he says following All In he is coming for the winner and is the one true champion. So to me, this gives us a very clear trajectory of where this feud is going to go. MJF almost certainly is going to win this Dynamite qualifying match next week. And those two, being MJF and Andrade, will be your number 1 and 2 participants at the All In Gauntlet match. Frankly, I don't think either one of them is going to win this match. So I think, they're going to distract each other significantly with their own feud, which to me then is going to lead into All Out in Chicago in September, which will probably see us have MJF taking on Andrade, either for Andrade's national championship, maybe for a different number 1 contendership. I'm not sure what'll be it could be even the Dynamite Diamond Ring possession that's up for grab in that match. I don't know exactly what the stakes will be, but I'm very, very certain, based on the way this promo is structured and the way the following shows lay out, that we're going to get MJF and Andrade as the number 1 and 2 entrants in the All In Casino Gauntlet match. That's going to lead us into All Out, following All In, the pay-per-view in Chicago, which will probably have us show MJF and Andrade going one-on-one with some kind of stipulation involved, and then that will lead us into the post-all-out area, maybe Wrestle Dream, or even if we get to Full Gear, and that would be the soonest that MJF, or even theoretically Andrade, could challenge for the AEW World Championship. It could theoretically be both of them if we were to do a 3-way for that title at Wrestle Dream or Full Gear. But now we seem to have a very defined trajectory for where this feud is going to go. I love that. We've gotten a lot of build, this entire year going towards MJF and Andrade butting heads. We are finally seeing it come to fruition. I love where we're at. I love that we're going to do this sort of a preview match at the Gauntlet. I love that they're probably both going to cost each other the opportunity, which is going to lead to a singles match at All Out, which then leads to whatever path these individuals take going forward, whether it be a gimmick match, whether it be them both being involved in the world title picture, whether it be neither of them individually being involved in the world title picture. But either way, we've got a direction for where we're going here, and it feels like a loose timeline of what makes sense there. I love it. So that brings us to a video package for Willow versus Mercedes, recapping sort of the events following Willow's championship celebration. And that sort of directly leads us into the women's 6-man tag match for the show. Willow teaming up again with the Brawling Birds to take on the aforementioned Mercedes Moné, her number 1 contender, and the AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, the Divine Dominion. I'm going to once again go on record as saying how much I really enjoy the Divine Dominion's entrance. You have Lena Cross on your left side, you have Megan Bayne on your right side, both of them lit differently to sort of illustrate their respective ethereal influences, if you will. Megan Bayne being more of the Greek goddess, whereas Lena Cross is almost depicted as this underworld demonic figure. And that's leaned into more in the attire that both of them wear in their entrances. Megan Bayne wears more of a white attire, whereas Lena Cross leans more dark and black in her attire. Even the headdresses show this. Megan Bayne's is more angelic, whereas the more demonic headdress is worn by Lena Cross. So this is just really good visual narrative continuity. I think AEW typically does a great job at this, and this is an area where they've really excelled, showing this in a very subtle fashion, what makes the Divine Dominion work visually and sort of adding to their own lore. I really, really like it. And I saw, based on the pre-match intros and entrances, that every single woman in this match, except for Jamie Hayter, currently holds a world championship or title belt of some kind. You have Mercedes with the Owen Hart Championship, which is not a recognized title, but she still carries around the belt anyway, so it's a de facto title. Obviously, the Divine Dominions, who she's with, are the AEW Women's Tag Team Champions. You have Willow Nightingale, the AEW Women's Champion, and then you have Alex Windsor of the Brawling Birds, who is the NJPW Strong Women's Champion. So really, you have 5 of the 6 members in this match who are holding championships or belts, even if they're not recognized belts, except for Jamie Hayter. That feels like a little bit of a travesty, because honestly, you could argue that Hayter is one of the 3 best wrestlers in this match, and I would even argue you could put her higher. So, justice for Jamie Hayter. Let's get her out of the 70s gear and put some gold on her, but I think that's going to happen sooner or later, as we will see based on the way this match unfolds. Mercedes was wearing her own goddess-inspired entrance attire, almost as a nod to what the Divine Dominion were doing. Again, good visual narrative continuity. We still don't know what association Mercedes and the Divine Dominion have, but whether it's just like an enemies of my enemies are my friends thing, or whether there's something a bit more defined there. But I do like that there's that incorporation. Um, this match is very solid, not really much spectacular in terms of the spots we see. We get Willow winning this match for the babyface team with a backslide over Mercedes after Mercedes reverses the Babe with the powerbomb attempt, and Willow reverses the Moneymaker attempt that she uses as a counter. And that it essentially grants the Brawling Birds a title match for the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships against the Divine Dominion at All In Wembley. We knew that was coming anyway. This was just, the baby faces winning here was used as a vehicle to get us there. I'm pretty okay with that. What I am not okay with, however, is again, Willow Nightingale, your now AEW Women's World Champion, is beating Mercedes Moné with a backslide. I need to ask, based on the way that Willow won this match, why are we doing this? Willow is incredibly physically imposing. Willow dominates in stature and size over Mercedes Moné. Mercedes Moné is physically not a match, just from a size standpoint, against Willow Nightingale. So why do we need Willow to get flash wins over a competitor that she's bigger than? I had an issue with this when they did it at Redemption against Tekla for the exact same reasons. And I have the same issue that she's doing it as a champion against Mercedes Moné. This is not the way that you establish a new, strong, credible women's champion, especially somebody who has the build and stature that Willow Nightingale does. She does not need to win this way. She can win in a more convincing fashion. And yes, the argument I get back is, oh, what, Willow winning with a wrestling move isn't good enough? I'm going to lean forward so you can hear me say this. No, it isn't. With somebody who is as big as Willow is, who is as strong as Willow is, and who is your now women's world champion, that individual needs to look much more imposing and less like an underdog. Having her win via a counter flash pin is painting her as an underdog who is not convincingly winning the match. I'm not saying it's not clean. It's absolutely a clean win, but it is not convincing, if that makes sense. Those are different things. And this was more of a flash win that you could argue is a fluke. I wouldn't say that, considering Willow has beaten her in convincing fashion in recent memory, so I won't go as far as to say it's a fluke. But it's like they did with Maya. It's a flash pin where you are trying to build up the credibility of somebody who is taking the next step and reaching the next level in their career. Why have them do that in unsuspecting fashion? Even Tony Schiavone, in the way he called the end of this match, says, oh my God, to Willow winning, even though Willow is the champion. Why would we not expect Willow as your AEW Women's World Champion, who is, based on hierarchy, the most talented and, imposing and strongest and overall best women's wrestler in this match? That's what holding your top belt means. That is your best wrestler. So having the idea out there that it would be an oh my God worthy exclamation that Willow would win this match over Mercedes, to me, speaks to the idea that they're selling this as a flash, unexpected win, which is not how you build a credible champion, winning her first, big women's championship at the top level, moving her up the tier hierarchy listings. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why they're doing it with Maya. I don't know why they're doing it with Willow and have done it multiple times now. Let her win clean. Even if you don't want to have her beat Mercedes, in a clean fashion, that's fine. You have two other women in this match. Lena Cross has been in the company for a year. Have her beat Lena. And then at least you can say, well, the tag team champions lost, so the tag team champions now have to defend their belts at All In. That makes a bit more sense. Even have one of the birds beat them. That makes more sense too. Don't have Willow go over as your champion and be surprised that your champion won. It's fucking weird. Again, language, I get it. It's fucking weird. Sorry, that is my soapbox of weird finishes that I don't like and that don't do anything for the wrestlers that hold championships that win in those fashions. Hopefully that's over based on some of what I saw the rest of the show. That wraps up part one of Duality of Wrestling's review of Grand Slam Mexico. Stay tuned for part 2.